Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Hi, folks. Welcome back. And those of you that are new, welcome. Here we are, our old friend Jen Psaki. Remember her? The former press secretary for President Biden, who got the hell out of Dodge while the getting out was good, has got a really sweet gig with MSNBC. Inside with Jen Psaki is the name of her show. And she's saying that the Republicans who are pro-life, but that brand, the word pro-life isn't good branding. And it's hurting Republicans, and it hurt them a little bit in the midterms, which is technically true. But we're going to listen to this. Well, I'm not going to say what I want to say. She's one of those people that I don't know what she's like in real life, but frankly, as a commentator and a press secretary, 90% of what comes out of her mouth is not true. So let's listen a little bit, and I'll comment along the way.
For decades, Republicans have made one thing abundantly clear. They are the pro-life party.
I intend to push for these pro-life measures just as hard as I know how.
My position has not changed. I am pro-life.
I'm also have been, continue to be pro-life.
I'm pro-life. I'm a pro-life candidate, and I've been a pro-life governor.
I'm proud to be pro-life, and I'm not going to be apologizing for people for becoming pro-life.
Proudly pro-life.
Unapologetically pro-life.
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 As you know, I'm pro-life, right? I think you know that.
You heard them. It could not be more clear where they stand on this issue. And if you need one more data point, let me just read from the Republican platform in both 2012 and 2016. Quote, abortion endangers the health and well-being of women, and we stand firmly against it.
It does endanger the health and well-being of women, just not in the way they think. You can't even tell you the people I know personally, of course, that's anecdotal, but the hundreds of interviews that I've seen, women have had abortions, that what it does to them psychologically. And mental health also counts as well, and their well-being. Is it a lie of omission? Yeah, kind of.
For years, many Republicans ran on the platform of overturning a woman's right to choose. But then something happened. They caught the car. Roe v. Wade was overturned, effectively ending all federal protections on abortions.
Yeah, but she lied. She lied. They said they want to pass laws that take away a woman's right to choose. That's not what happened. All the Supreme Court did was say it's not the federal level. The Roe v. Wade ruling was bad law. Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg, rest her soul, the champion of the liberals and progressives, said this is a bad decision. It's going to be overturned. It's based on a false premise. They did not outlaw abortion. That's a lie. And that's why you're going to see later in this video the high percent of people that were against the Supreme Court's decision, because you never said and implied that the court ruled that abortions were unlawful. It's not. It was up to the states. Let's listen on.
So the GOP finally got what they wanted. But it turns out Americans, including a majority of independents, did not like it. An NBC News poll from June shows that 61% of all voters disapproved of the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe. And this issue didn't just register in polls, it actually swayed elections.
Now, I'll say it again. Because when you had these polls, you implied or outright lied and said the Supreme Court ruled outlawed abortion. That's a lie. I live in upstate New York. There is no one here that's a woman that cannot get the same abortion right as she had prior to the Supreme Court decision. And the vast majority of states. And if you live in a state, all they do is restrict the time limit. Now, some states are very short time, so it's almost like a total ban. You get in the car, you drive an hour away, Planned Parenthood, they'll do it for you. By the way, the biggest source of income, besides taxpayer money, of course, the biggest source of income for Planned Parenthood is abortions, founded by Margaret Sanger, who wanted to wipe out and slowly over time erase the blacks in this country. They left that part out as well.
Just last month in Ruby Red, Ohio, voters sided with defenders of abortion rights. In Wisconsin earlier this year, a winning candidate's pro-choice message helped her flip the balance of the state's Supreme Court. In the Republican stronghold of Kansas, doesn't get much more Republican stronghold than that, voters chose to protect abortion rights in their state. And of course, in the 2022 midterm elections, the Republican Party vastly underperformed expectations. There was no red wave, largely because of their opposition to reproductive rights.
Yeah, and that's what the court ruled. The court ruled each individual state has the right to regulate abortion, period. Roe v. Wade. Here's my other question before we get too deep into this. Jen, your hero, Barack Obama, and many Democrats for the last, since Roe v. Wade, I believe it was 1972 or 3, I was a junior in high school at the time. Why hasn't the federal government, when your party, the Democrats, had the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate majorities, all three, numerous times since the early 70s, and not once since that ruling has they made a federal law protecting abortion rights for women, as you say. Why didn't the Democrats pass the law? Because they know, even today, that the majority of people are not pro-abortion. There has to be rules. Why didn't they pass a law? And for all time, settle this matter. Settle this matter completely with a federal law. Didn't do it, did you? Because you know better. You don't want the abortion issue to be somewhat, we'll say, compromised. You want the issue.
Now, facing another major election, the GOP is in a bit of a pickle, and they know it. They're even meeting behind closed doors to discuss it. According to new reporting from NBC, Republican strategists are exploring a shift away from pro-life messaging on abortion after consistent Election Day losses for the GOP when reproductive rights were on the ballot. The reporting details a closed-door meeting this past week where Senate Republicans were presented with poll results that showed the term pro-life no longer resonated with voters.
Because they think that pro-life, thanks to people like you, MSNBC, CNN, and the rest, think that pro-life means zero abortions. It does not. Whoa, yeah, it's just because you've destroyed the meaning of it with your mouth and your network that you now work for. The term you use for minors that can pick and choose their gender without their parents' consent is gender-affirming care. Yeah, that's a saying, too, that has nothing to do with reality. Just like pro-life. Interesting. The sayings you come up with that are totally opposite of what they really are okay. Let's listen on.
No kidding. Senator Josh Hawley actually said this with a straight face. Many voters think pro-life means you're for no exceptions in favor of abortion ever. A little memo to Mr. Hawley. In Missouri, which is the state you represent, abortion law makes no exceptions for rape or incest. No exceptions for rape or incest.
Now, they didn't say you couldn't get an abortion. See what the lie of omission is. Up to a certain date, I am not sure on Missouri. I'm not an expert on state-by-state abortion laws. But it didn't say you can't get an abortion in Missouri. After a certain time period, 2, 3, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever it is, then you can't abort it under any circumstances except for the life of the mother. She left that part out. The lie of omission. She didn't say that Missouri banned abortions. She left that part out.
But they don't seem to be wrapped up in these pesky little details of the actual impact of the policy because they are seeking a rebrand. Pro-life now becomes, in the words of Indiana Senator Todd Young, pro-baby. Pro-baby. Okay, I hate to break it to you, but if you call broccoli candy, it's still just broccoli. If you tie a really nice bow around a lump of coal, it is still coal under there.
She just compared we'll even call it fetus and use her terms. She compared it to broccoli and a lump of coal. That's how far from reality these people are. Whether you're pro, con, somewhere in the middle, doesn't matter. If you're making a comparison about aborting a baby and use broccoli and coal as your example, there is something seriously wrong with you. I'm going to use my button here because I'm going to swear. You are seriously in the head.
The branding isn't the problem here. The policy is the problem. And no matter what they call it, the truth is the Republican platform has long been pro-life. But for the sake of argument, because there should always be a bridge back to good policymaking, in Washington, D.C. especially, if they wanted to be pro-baby, maybe they should stop opposing new child care and parental leave programs or food stamps for low-income women and young children. I could go on. It is hard to roll out an effective rebrand for a product that customers hate. That's a big old marketing tool piece of advice for you. And if I were them, I also wouldn't want to run on a platform of anti-rights, anti-choice, anti-women either.
They're not. It's a lie. So then if abortions are restricted in certain states, the taxpayers got to fund it? That's ridiculous. And I'm going to make another example, then I'll get off it here because I've been talking long enough. You seem to have zero issue with independent states and their restrictions on gun ownership. In deep, deep blue cities like New York, LA, Chicago, where the major crimes are and deaths by guns, you have zero issue with piecemeal laws all over the country on gun ownership rights. You have zero problem with Chicago having some of the strictest, and Atlanta, and New York, and San Francisco, Austin, Texas, for Pete's sake, but they're in a open carry state, so it's a little bit different for them. You have no problem without a uniform gun law issue because you know it just can't be done. It's amazing to me how you can sit there and lie. I'm Roman Catholic. They call it a lie of omission. You're leaving out so many facts. And I'll leave it with this. Yeah, there is a PR problem. A good friend of mine, him and I are both political junkies, and we're both very conservative people. His wife is also fairly conservative. He has a daughter in her early 20s, and they talk politics about Democrats and Republicans since she was young. After the Supreme Court struck down the Roe v. Wade decision, not abortion, the Roe v. Wade decision, his own daughter, who he's talked to at length about many issues, and that friend is very conservative, she thought the Supreme Court outlawed abortion because that's what she's been told. That's what they've been told over and over and over by her network here, the pieces of garbage at MSNBC, CNN, and the other media cable news outlets, as well as social media, which people her age get 90% of their information from. She thought the Supreme Court outlawed abortion. That's the problem. The problem was the Republicans are very, very, very bad at explaining things. And all the Supreme Court did was give it back to the states where it belongs. Just like there's no universal law for a driver's license in the United States. It's per state, and that's the way the founders wanted it. Age of alcohol consumption, driving cars, abortion. You can go through the list is endless. Age to be married. The list is endless. But all of a sudden, she takes exception to the fact that states now get to decide. 95% of all abortions, that people that wanted one before Roe v. Wade can still get one. This is a lie, but it's working out for them politically. I have to give it to them. She's right, and to a certain extent. But she's leaving out a lot of the facts. And that's the way the Democrats roll. Until next time, goodbye, God bless, and good luck.